In this module, we're looking at box and whisker plots and how we might interpret and describe them. Box and whisker plots have been around for about 40 years and they come in a range of designs, but we're only going to be concerned with the style you see in reports on your school data. These reports summarise information about your student cohort. Here are our Year 7 students from Example College. We looked at our students' NAPLAN reading scores and plotted them on a number line so that we could see how they were distributed. These results were condensed into the box and whisker graphic on the school summary report which follows, like the one on the left-hand side here that represents the same set of data that we've just looked at. On these graphs, we need to pay attention to a few particular things. First, the key up on the left-hand side tells us that this graphic represents the data from the 10th to the 90th percentile. This means that the graphs cover the middle 80% of each cohort. 80% of the national cohort, 80% of the state cohort, and 80% of your students' results. The graphic does not represent the bottom and top 10% of students. So let's think more about what this means. If we look again at our students, and now we can see the box and whisker plot set against them, it's as if we've turned over the top 10% and the lowest 10% of this group. When you reflect on your group of students, I'm sure you can immediately think of who some of these students are. They may be extremely bright or particularly weak students compared to the rest of the cohort. Consider if, say, you had 90 Year 7s, then the results of the lowest 9 and top 9 students are not covered by the box and whisker plot. What does the graph tell you? It shows general characteristics of the group that have implications for planning and teaching. First, where the group is centred. This middle line, the median, marks the middle of the group's results. Half of your students have scored above this value and half below. If we go a little further out, the red box shows the range of scores for the middle 50% or half of your students. You need to think about where they are positioned against the bands and how spread out or diverse they are. You can compare this to the state or national box and whisker plot to get a sense of where your students sit in the bigger picture of student performance. Take note of where they fit in relation to the national minimum standard. In this case, for Year 7s, this is band 5, between the 5 and the 6 on that scale. Next, look at the whole box and whisker plot and therefore the spread of the middle 80% in total. This will give you an idea of how spread out the bulk of your students are. But remember, you still have to consider that the lowest and top 10% of these students have scores beyond these bounds. As well as considering the overall density, you can see whether this spread is symmetric. Does the median, or that middle line, appear to divide the graph in half? If it does not, then your data is said to be skewed in the direction where the results are most spread out. The longer the section of the box and whisker plot, the more diverse the students' results. The shorter the section, the less diverse those students are in their ability. This is information to keep in mind when planning programs and class teaching. Let's consider a further example. In this graphic, the lower whisker is quite long. It's common for teachers to comment that there are too many students in the tail. It's not that there are more students than are represented in the top whisker. Each whisker represents 15% of the students. In this case, the weaker students are more diverse and the upper group are more similar in their results. All of this information gives us something to think about when we're planning programs to help our students progress through their schooling.